welcome to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we assist people in exploding into their lives with full impact mindfulness. All you need is the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to try. That's the price of admission. Welcome aboard, my friends. Let the adventure begin. I'm Jim Ellermeyer. I'm a behavioral health therapist, and today I'm joined by my good friend, producer, and co-host of this program, Mr. Mike. I understand you had quite an eventful weekend.
Yeah, so it was as I've been talking your off here before, but yeah, it is exciting. I got to go to Chicago and do something I really love to do that I haven't been able to for months, and it's feeling really good. And we talked about a little bit of kind of positive affirmation, I think, a little bit, and I got a little bit of it, and I don't hear that as much from these kinds of projects, at least in the way that this happened.
Okay.
It's interesting. I got a good vibe. I got a really good vibe and a really good kind of natural high from everything, I guess.
Well, it sounds like, Mike, that you got a mood boost that I don't think any molecule could provide.
Certainly not. Certainly not. And as I kind of expected when things like this might have started again, with the drought of things happening in COVID-19, I figured it would hit me hard. Any of us is going to hit hard when it's like, hey, we get to go back to the thing we want to do, that makes us feel good again, that we haven't been allowed to do for so many months.
Okay. Well, and again, this is kind of encapsulates the zeitgeist, the mood of this era when you're talking about, I can't do the things that I want to do. I have nothing to look forward to. I have some cognitive dulling. I just don't feel, I feel stuck and I feel sluggish. So what you're saying is doing something that you wanted to do and receiving some validation for it is a real boost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's a nice recipe and a nice prescription that we could give to all of our friends out there. However, tonight, Mike, we're going to talk a little straight talk.
Mm-hmm.
So in my practice, Namaste Holistic Counseling, I'm known as the person who, if you want to get well, then let's do it. Okay. I usually don't cut through like do a lot of therapist psychobabble and help people come through side doors. So generally I'll ask people, do you have any 3 a.m. friends? Mike, you know what a 3 a.m. friend is?
Oh, is that the one that always has a problem at 3 a.m. that needs to talk?
A 3 a.m. friend is when your friend calls you at 3 a.m. and they're broken down along the side of the road and you just jump right out of bed and you go get them. That's a 3 a.m. friend.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely been the jump out of the bed person.
Okay, then you're a 3 a.m. friend. Everybody, I hope, out there has 3 a.m. friends, and if you don't, please find one or be one. So generally, I ask people, I'll say, okay, in judging any relationship, whether romantic or friendship, does that person listen to you? Does that person understand you? Does that person respect you? Does that person treat you as an equal? Does that person give you the benefit of the doubt and the freedom to decide? I consider those a human bill of rights. I consider that checking the boxes on whether that person is going to be in your company. You know, Mike, so many people that I run into, simply because someone shows interest in them, they feel that they should have interest in that other person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they feel trapped, that they kind of need to reciprocate, is what we're saying?
They feel trapped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and again, we go back to our primary premise when we look at situations. Our job and our responsibility is to do no intentional harm to anyone or anything.
Right.
However, that doesn't obligate us to carry somebody's emotions, thoughts, or feelings with us, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And that seems to happen sometimes when you find yourself in a situation where a little bit of overshares. I think I can be accused of this sometimes myself, I probably done it to you. So, but no, yeah, like the like, hey, how are you doing? Well, let me tell you how I'm doing and how everything's going, kind of thing. But to somebody that maybe isn't in the 3 a.m. friend category, yeah, it gets a little bit awkward.
Oversharing is a human quality.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, we keep going back to things we've reviewed in the past. And however, the deal about this is all these things are wonderful. However, they're worthless unless you incorporate them in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through the Buddhist three gates. Is it true? Is it kind? And I think most telling, Mike, is it necessary?
I love it because I know this is those words are something that I've been hearing a lot from you over the last couple of months of this show, and that's just so big right now because so many people, um, in a time when we need to be taking care of each other, um, um, aren't considering those things.
Sure. So we all have a commonality. We all have an obligation to have a moral compass,
Mm-hmm.
know the difference between right and wrong, treat people with courtesy and respect, be dependable, and be honest. I'm not too sure we could find anybody who would disagree with that, although more than likely we would.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's not us against them, it's us.
Mm-hmm.
It's us. So, and again, coming back to some straight talk, we're under no obligation to really deal with anybody. And unfortunately, many people deal and continue to deal with unpleasant people and situations out of guilt and shame and a feeling of obligation. All right. So, and again, where I'm going to with this, and maybe we'll get some blowback on this. However, when somebody tells me about a parent, a mother, a brother, a sister, an aunt, an uncle, and they tell me what a pain in the rump this person is, everybody has that uncle or aunt, I would think. Okay. That you just dread going to see them. However, out of obligation, you do. I fail to understand how an accident of birth makes you responsible to want to see somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has that uncle or that aunt or that mother or that father in their life. And one question I ask them, Mike, is if that person were not genetically linked to you through an accident of birth, would that person be on your Christmas card list? Would you go bowling with them?
Mm-hmm.
Would you have wanted to travel to Chicago with them this weekend? Would you have liked to spend all that time in the car?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, then give me a reason. Give me a reason why you feel obligated or through guilt and shame to still attend to that person.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's there's a song that I used to listen to that talked about who your real family was. It's the ones. It basically talked about the 3 a.m. friends and how that's thicker than family sometimes.
Well, sure. Generally, when I do an initial eval with someone, I'll ask them about the 3 a.m. friends, and I'll ask them, and I'd like everybody out there also to mull over this question in their own mind. Who in your life do you trust so much that if they said fall, you'd fall without hesitation? Or if everything were taken away from you, your health, your money, your position, your shoes, who would be with you at the end? Who would never leave you?
Right.
And if you have one or two of those people in your life, consider yourself extremely fortunate. And now I'll go another step further. And if you haven't told that person exactly that, shame on you.
Mm-hmm.
How many times oh, they know how I feel?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of how I talked about the affirmation that may have experienced a little bit this weekend. Like you need to remember to deliver that on the people that like they need to hear that.
So they not only told you you did a good job, they told you how you did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we've talked about this before, someone prepares a holiday feast. works on it, slaves over it, makes everything as perfect as they can. Everyone sits down at the table, and in 20 minutes it's gone. And the cook comes out and says, "How was it?" And everybody says, "It was good." And then they go in the other room and watch football. Okay. So, what we're talking about is adding meaning to life. And that doesn't mean going hang gliding or zip gliding, climbing Mount Everest, rock climbing, rock diving, those type of things. What it means is having those moments in life that are special when you connect with another human being. I've never, you can connect with cliff diving, okay, but you're going to connect with the water. However, it's that human connection about people whom you appreciate, trust, and love. Love is such an overused term. I love you. Okay. Do you ever, I'm sure you love your mother. We talked about her earlier. Do you ever sit down with your mother and say, "Mom, I love you because"? Do you ever give bullet points behind that?
I can't say that I do. You know what? I do. Mom, I love when you do this. Yeah, that I do because,
Okay.
but I don't think you've met my mother, but she is a bit of a character,
Okay.
and she's got some. I don't know. We all have the fun ticks, as you go, and there's this kind of the eye roll. Mom, da 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 da, kind of thing, and that's where I think that comes out for us.
Okay. So, for everyone out there, it's your responsibility to do no intentional harm and, however, not to carry the burdens of others with you unfairly. However, it's also your responsibility to connect on an empathetic level with other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Not to tell them you're sorry, because as in a 12-step world, when I tell patients at initial evals that I'm not going to give them any sympathy, some of them kind of step back and say, "Whoa, what?" Because then I tell them that giving someone sympathy is participating in their misery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's not what you're here for.
That's not what we're here for. And it's also in the 12-step world, we call it co-signing BS. However, what I do tell people is that I'll give them all the encouragement and support that I have
Mm-hmm.
and to empathize with them. And one of the most disrespectful comments a human being can make to another, in my estimation, is telling another person, "I know how you feel. I know how you feel." Mike, that's impossible. Okay. So I can't stick a thermometer in your mouth, Mike, and say, "Mike has happiness of 8.4 or "Mike has grief of 9.3.
And if you ask for a scale of 1 to 10, everybody's 8 is different. What that means to them.
Everything's a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's how it feels for you.
We literally see a different world than the person beside us, is one thing I think about sometimes.
Well, quite often what I'll tell people is sometimes our translator doesn't work the same as others. And this is one of the reasons, Mike, why eyewitness accounts are so unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, can you speak Russian?
No.
Neither can I.
9? No, wait, that's German. I'm not doing that right.
So, if you and I wanted to go see, let's say, this science fiction writer or director or whatever, things that we both would appreciate, uh, and it's a large audience, and there's a number of different translators.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm only assuming that my translator is giving the context and clarity and the meaning of that person, and you're assuming the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All translators view things differently.
You're going to get their personal slant of interpretation.
There's some nuances
Yeah.
that they throw their own particular point of view on. So, but I'm assuming that I heard exactly the same thing as you. And when we get together afterwards and share our stories, we find that it's not so true.
I mean, very, very. Have you ever watched an overdubbed show, from a different language than its original? And you just wonder if, like, did they read that at the same effect as the original? I don't know about this one,
Well, that's the main reason that when there's a particular happening or a scene the policemen, the detectives will separate the witnesses
Mm-hmm.
immediately,
Mm-hmm.
so they won't be able to connect their stories and come up with something coherent, that
Mm-hmm.
because no one wants to be different from other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and then our minds begin to guess and say, what did I see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because remember, we have memories, and but there's very little connection between the memories, and our mind generates events to connect them.
And sometimes, depending on, that's where doesn't that also lean into the gaslighting situation,
Well,
where somebody tells you you're not feeling the same thing, or how things went, and you start second guessing?
well, in fact, I was speaking to someone about that today. That happens particularly to people in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Either a young lady or a young man is gaslighted by an individual who makes them feel that they're less than,
Mm-hmm.
and that they should be with that person, and they're really not fit company for anybody else other
Mm-mm.
than them.
Mm-mm.
And they're actually doing them a favor by being with them. They're prone to isolate people. The gaslighting's been going on for a long time, but again, here we come up with this buzzword,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is repackaged buzzwords. So what I'd like everyone to do is really to step back and take a look at their life. As the Dalai Lama said, question everything. Question everything. As human beings, we're generally influenced by the last thing that we see, or the last person that we talk to, or the last thing that we read. Okay? So we have to understand that we want to have that beginner's mind. We want to question everything, and to take a non judgmental stance and be the observer. Be the observer behind the thinker. Okay? So I'm asking everyone out there to use their brains, use your scientific clinical brain to gather the data, shifts and sort the facts, and make a logical clinical decision based on a situation. Then I'd like everyone to take their heart and see what wrap their emotions around this particular situation, and then get that perception of your heart. And then ask, what is my gut feeling? What is my intuitive first feel about this situation? And my friends, whenever your head, your heart, and your gut align, you'll know your path. You'll know your path. So at the end of every podcast, we offer a free prescription: fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Do a kindness for yourself. Do a kindness for another. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.